Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is David Novak. Today I'm going to read some poems by A.E. Housman. I have just recently done readings of W.B. Yeats and W.H. Auden. One of my viewers asked who would be next, and it seemed like A.E. Housman was the right choice, coming from more or less the same milieu. This book of his collected poems belonged to a friend of mine who died, and she left me in charge of dispersing her library, and I appropriated this one for myself. She expected me to take any editions that I took a fancy to. Prior to that time, I relied upon the Dover Thrift edition of A Shropshire Lad, which is his most famous book. He did not write an awful lot of poetry, but what he wrote bears a unique stamp, and certain of his poems were regarded as classics, I think almost from the first. Loveliest of trees, the cherry now, is hung with bloom along the bough, and stands about the woodland ride, wearing white for Eastertide. Now, of my 80 years and 10, 20 will not come again, and take from 70 springs a score, it only leaves me 50 more. And since to look at things in bloom, 50 springs are little room, about the woodlands I will go, to see the cherry hung with snow. I've just picked out poems based either on their iconic status as a classic, an acknowledged classic, or ones that, in flipping through the book, just struck me as being pretty readable, or ones that just struck me as being curious in themselves. All of his poems, his mellifluous lines, were pretty readable, I think. And we're right with another anthology piece. I made reference to a poem by Housman, and I think in my rush to interject the reference, I misidentified the poem. I referred to the last one, and I am sure that the one that I really meant was this one that I am about to read, as being comparable to whatever poem by Yeats that I had just read. When I was 21, I heard a wise man say, give crowns and pounds and guineas, but not your heart away. Give pearls away and rubies, but keep your fancy free. But I was 21, no use to talk to me. When I was 21, I heard him say again, the heart out of the bosom was never given in vain. 'Tis paid with sighs aplenty, and sold for endless rue. And I am 22, and oh, 'tis true, 'tis true. It nods and curtsies and recovers when the wind blows above, the nettle on the graves of lovers that hanged themselves for love. The nettle nods, the wind blows over, the man he does not move, the lover of the grave, the lover that hanged himself for love. Many of his poems do strike that sort of morbid note. Oh, when I was in love with you, then I was clean and brave, and miles around the wonder grew, how well did I behave. And now the fancy passes by, and nothing will remain, and miles around they'll say that I am quite myself again. To an athlete dying young. The time you won your town the race, we chaired you through the marketplace. Man and boy stood cheering by, and home we brought you shoulder high. Today the road all runners come, shoulder high we bring you home, and set you at your threshold down, townsman of a stiller town. Smart lad, to slip betimes away from fields where glory does not stay. And early though the laurel grows, it withers quicker than the rose. Eyes the shady night has shut cannot see the record cut, and silence sounds no worse than cheers after earth has stopped the ears. Now you will not swell the rout of lads that wore their honors out, runners whom renown outran, and the name died before the man. So set before its echoes fade, the fleet foot on the sill of shade, and hold to the low lintel up the still defended challenge cup. And round that early laureled head will flock to gaze the strengthless dead, and find unwithered on its curls the garland briefer than a girl's. The street sounds to the soldier's tread, and out we troop to see. A single redcoat turns his head. He turns and looks at me. My man, from sky to skies so far, we never crossed before. Such leagues apart the world's ends are, we're like to meet no more. What thoughts at heart have you and I, we cannot stop to tell. But dead or living, drunk or dry, soldier, I wish you well. Others, I am not the first, have willed more mischief than they durst. If in the breathless night I too shiver now, 'tis nothing new. More than I, if truth were told, have stood and sweated hot and cold, and through their reins in ice and fire, fear contented with desire. Agued once like me were they, but I like them shall win my way, lastly to the bed of mold, where there's neither heat nor cold. But from my grave across my brow plays no wind of healing now, and fire and ice within me fight beneath the suffocating night. I mean, it says through their reins, but to me it seemed like it should be veins, but who am I to argue? Perhaps my other book would tell, but I didn't bring it out. Into my heart an air that kills from yon far country blows. What are those blue remembered hills? What spires, what farms are those? That is the land of lost content. I see it shining plain, the happy highways where I went and cannot come again. A shot so quick, so clean an ending. Oh, that was right, lad, that was brave. Yours was not an ill for mending. 'Twas best to take it to the grave. Oh, you had forethought, you could reason, and saw your road and where it led, and early wise and brave in season, put the pistol to your head. Oh, soon and better so than later, after long disgrace and scorn, you shot dead the household traitor, the soul that should not have been born. Right you guessed the rising morrow, and scorned to tread the mire you must. Dust's your wages, son of sorrow, but men may come to worse than dust. Souls undone, undoing others, long time since the tale began. You would not live to wrong your brothers. O lad, you died as fits a man. Now to your grave shall friend and stranger, with ruth and some with envy, come, undishonored, clear of danger, clean of guilt, pass hence and home. Turn safe to rest, no dreams, no waking, and here, man, here's the wreath I've made. 'Tis not a gift that's worth the taking, but wear it and it will not fade. With rue my heart is laden, for golden friends I had, for many a rose-lipped maiden, and many a light-foot lad. By brooks too broad for leaping, the light-foot boys are laid, the rose-lipped girls are sleeping in fields where roses fade. There's something steadying about poetry in these luckless times. One realizes that others have lived through hard times as well. When I came last to Ludlow, amidst the moonlight pale, two friends kept step beside me, two honest lads and hale. Now Dick lies long in the churchyard, and Ned lies long in jail, and I come home to Ludlow amidst the moonlight pale. This is a long one that I never really cottoned to as much as teachers and professors seemed to like it, scholars did. But nevertheless, one has to admit that it's perfect in its way. Terence, this is stupid stuff. You eat your victuals fast enough. There can't be much amiss, 'tis clear, to see the rate you drink your beer. But oh, good Lord, the verse you make, it gives a chap the belly ache. The cow, the old cow, she is dead. It sleeps well, the horned head. We poor lads, 'tis our turn now to hear such tunes as killed the cow. Pretty friendship 'tis to rhyme your friends to death before their time, moping melancholy mad. Come, pipe a tune to dance to, lad. Why, if 'tis dancing you would be, there's brisker pipes than poetry. Say, for what were hop yards meant, or why was Burton built on Trent? Oh, many a peer of England brews livelier liquor than the Muse, and malt does more than Milton can to justify God's ways to man. Ale, man, ale's the stuff to drink for fellows whom it hurts to think. Look into the pewter pot to see the world as the world's not. And faith, 'tis pleasant till 'tis past. The mischief is that 'twill not last. Oh, I have been to Ludlow Fair, and left my necktie God knows where, and carried halfway home or near pints and quarts of Ludlow beer. Then the world seemed none so bad, and I myself a sterling lad, and down in lovely muck I've lain, happy till I woke again. Then I saw the morning sky. Hi-ho, the tale was all a lie. The world, it was the old world yet. I was I, my things were wet, and nothing now remained to do but begin the game anew. Therefore, since the world has still much good, but much less good than ill, and while the sun and moon endure, luck's a chance, but trouble's sure, I'd face it as a wise man would, and train for ill and not for good. 'Tis true the stuff I bring for sale is not so brisk a brew as ale. Out of a stem that scored the hand, I wrung it in a weary land. But take it, if the smack is sour, the better for the embittered hour. It should do good to heart and head when your soul is in my soul's stead, and I will friend you, if I may, in the dark and cloudy day. There was a king reigned in the east, there when kings will sit to feast. They get their fill before they think, with poisoned meat and poisoned drink. He gathered all that springs to birth from the many venomed earth. First a little, thence to more, he sampled all her killing store. And easy, smiling, seasoned sound sate the king when healths went round. They put arsenic in his meat and stared aghast to watch him eat. They poured strychnine in his cup and shook to see him drink it up. They shook, they stared as white's their shirt. Them it was their poison hurt. I tell the tale that I heard told. Mithridates, he died old. I hoed and trenched and weeded, and took the flowers to fair. I brought them home unheeded, the hue was not the wear. So up and down I sow them, for lads like me to find, when I shall lie below them, a dead man out of mind. Some seed the birds devour, and some the season mars, but here and there will flower the solitary stars, and fields will yearly bear them as light-leaved spring comes on, and luckless lads will wear them when I am dead and gone. 8 o'clock. He stood and heard the steeple sprinkle the quarters on the morning town. 1, 2, 3, 4, To marketplace and people it tossed them down. Strapped, noosed, nighing his hour, he stood and counted them and cursed his luck. And then the clock collected in the tower its strength and struck. The sigh that heaves the grasses, whence thou wilt never rise, is of the air that passes, and knows not if it sighs. The diamond tears adorning thy low mound on the lea, those are the tears of morning that weeps, but not for thee. Now dreary dawns the eastern light, and fall of eve is drear, and cold the poor man lies at night, and so goes out the year. Little is the luck I've had, and oh, 'tis comfort small, to think that many another lad has had no luck at all. I, to my perils of cheat and charmer, came clad in armor by stars benign. Hope lies to mortals, and most believe her, but man's deceiver was never mine. The thoughts of others were light and fleeting, of lovers meeting, or luck or fame. Mine were of trouble, and mine were steady, so I was ready when trouble came. Stars, I have seen them fall, but when they drop and die, no star is lost at all from the star-sown sky. The toil of all that be helps not the primal fault. It rains into the sea, and still the sea is salt. I promise nothing, friends will part. All things may end, for all began, and truth and singleness of heart are mortal even as is man. But this unlucky love should last, when answered passions thin to air. Eternal fate so deep has cast its sure foundation of despair. I'm trying to be careful with this book because the pages are brittle. Because I liked you better than suits a man to say. It irked you, and I promised to throw the thought away. To put the world between us, we parted, stiff and dry. Goodbye, said you, forget me. I will, no fear, said I. If here, where clover whitens, the dead man's knoll you pass, and no tall flower to meet you starts in the trefoiled grass, halt by the headstone naming the heart no longer stirred, and say the lad that loved you was one that kept his word. Halfway for one commandment broken, the woman made her endless halt, and she today, a glistering token, stands in the wilderness of salt. Behind the vats of judgment brewing, thundered, and thick the brimstone snowed, he to the hill of his undoing pursued his road. Here dead we lie because we did not choose to live and shame the land from which we sprung. Life, to be sure, is nothing much to lose, but young men think it is, and we were young. He looked at me with eyes I thought I was not like to find. The voice he begged for pence with brought another man to mind. Oh no, lad, never touch your cap. It is not my half crown. You have it from a better chap that long ago lay down. Turn east and over Thames to Kent, and come to the sea's brim, and find his everlasting tent, and touch your cap to him. I wake from dreams and turning my vision on the height, I scan the beacons burning about the fields of night. Each in its steadfast station, in flaming heaven they flare. They sign with conflagration the empty moors of air. The signal fires of warning they blaze, but none regard, and on through night to morning, the world runs ruinward. Kind of an odd line, ruinward, kind of a fairly negative sentiment. But they cannot all be tunes to dance to, can they? It is no gift I tender, alone is all I can. But do not scorn the lender, man gets no more from man. O mortal man may borrow what mortal man can lend, and 'twill not end tomorrow, though sure enough 'twill end. If death and time are stronger, a love may yet be strong. The world will last for longer, but this will last for long. It looks like one last. This one brings Oscar Wilde to mind. Oh, who is that young sinner with the handcuffs on his wrists? And what has he been after that they groan and shake their fists? And wherefore is he wearing such a conscience-stricken air? Oh, they're taking him to prison for the color of his hair. 'Tis a shame to human nature, such a head of hair as his. In the good old time 'twas hanging for the color that it is, though hanging isn't bad enough, and flaying would be fair, for the nameless and abominable color of his hair. Oh, a deal of pains he's taken, and a pretty price he's paid, to hide his poll or dye it of a mentionable shade. But they've pulled the beggar's hat off for the world to see and stare, and they're hailing him to justice for the color of his hair. Now 'tis oakum for his fingers, and the treadmill for his feet, and the quarry gang on Portland in the cold and in the heat. And between his spells of labor, in the time he has to spare, he can curse the God that made him for the color of his hair. Well, but isn't that appropriate to our time, with the powers that be in high governmental office seeking out scapegoats left and right, simply because they know that by finding scapegoats, they thereby increase their own power, by pandering to the basest instincts in men and women. These are the times in which we find ourselves today in the United States of America, as our constitutional government crumbles. It is a constitutional collapse which we are racing toward. So perhaps poetry may help us to face the days ahead, should worse things than we are already witnessing come to pass, as we indeed expect they might. Thank you very much for stopping by my channel.